Welcome to the Dr. Nikki Starr Show, a podcast to support you in your spiritual awakening and personal development. As a spiritual teacher, healer, and intuitive coach, my intention is to empower you to live your ultimate potential and your ultimate life. As a former medical doctor and mystic, my role is to bridge the gap between science and spirituality to support you in understanding more of your multidimensional aspects. I share on a diverse range of topics, and it's all to support your greatest becoming. My mission is to continue reaching millions of people for the healing and awakening of humankind for the creation of the new earth. Thank you for being here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. I am here today with Aoife. We met here on the beautiful island of Ibiza. And she is a channel and a galactic priestess. And you may be wondering, what is that? We're going to talk about what that is. I am also these things. But we have so many different names. And it's such an honor and gift to know her because I find so many codes that she has are like mine. And so I've always wanted to meet someone who does similar kinds of healing and light language as I do. And then I found her. And so it's been such a gift to reconnect in this life because you definitely have met in other planets, dimensions, times, and spaces. And so welcome, Aoife. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure, dear. It's been a real, we've had a few twists and turns to get here, haven't we? I had to shed off some of my resistance to actually come on camera. So thank you, Nikki, for drawing that out of me.
Yeah, beautiful. And I have found that with a lot of guests on the show, so many of us are holding such high wisdom. And for whatever reason, there can be these moments when we're about to be seen even more in all of our glory and all of our gifts with no filter or no trying to change or sugarcoat it, and just really being fully authentically expressed, that it can bring up some things. And I feel a lot of this is connected to past lives and also the magnitude, like what we're here to bring to earth at this time is really here to change the fabric of existence. And it's really a gift and it's a high responsibility.
Which is probably why we ended up doing it on a day like today, because we have this portal day today. Well, portal day is too small a word, really. It's the end of an era where Pluto is transiting and we're beginning this 2,600 year cycle. Is that right? Where our 26,000 year cycle, where we're now moved from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius today. It's today it begins. So I guess that's why we end up aligning with it today.
Yeah, and that's that big trust in divine timing. Really knowing that sometimes it seems like we're taking detours, but we're arriving perfectly on time. And it feels like that too, because as I was meditating this morning before you came, I was really feeling like, wow, this episode feels more like a channeled episode more so than other ones. Like others are more like conversational. This one to me feels bigger in some way. And maybe it's because of the bonus. We decided right before we came on that we are going to do a collaboration light language transmission that is to ignite even more the title of this podcast episode, which is Remembering Your Galactic Self. And so many of us have these memories already, or through our spiritual awakening, remember them. And so maybe you have already connected to some of your galactic lives on other planets and other places and other times and spaces. And Aoife and I definitely share connections in Atlantis and Lemuria, and
we've definitely
Venus.
Had some mermaid play days together.
And also in Lyra. And I feel like that is one of the big ones where we've connected on. And even on the Lionsgate portal, you hosted an event here in Ibiza. Mine was online. And it was so nice to reconnect to the white lions. I should have brought my drum. I didn't think. But, as many of you know, I took the name White Lion as a spiritual name when I was an initiate in Dominher. And of course, that frequency comes through so many times and places. And there are certain frequencies that are here to help us remember our galactic self. And I feel that the white lions are one, and so are the Andaras that you brought. So I see now why you called to bring them.
Yeah.
Do you want to show some and share about what the Andaras are? And actually, I'm wearing this was gifted to me by Aoife. So I know you've been seeing it on some of the podcast episodes. And I know that people who are crystal lovers are always like, what is that? And I'm like, an Andara, and no one has no idea what they are. Like, oh, she'll tell you about that.
Yeah, these are really, they are tools for remembering your galactic self, like we spoke about as the title of this podcast. They're not like regular crystals that grow in the earth. They are crystals that we actually, as masters and high priest and high priestess in ancient Lemuria, early Atlantis, we created these crystals as a way to sort of encapsulate the star wisdom from different constellations, knowing with our foresight that we had access to all our spiritual gifts and that we're reclaiming now, that this time would come where we would need to remember this capacity for compassion, this alignment with true abundance, and the connection with source frequency and the oneness that we are. And so they, as you can see here, I'm sure that one of them, if not both of them, are jumping out to some of you, because they're frequencies that a lot of you that resonate with Nikki will already hold. I'm trying to get the light in this one. This one in particular is a Pleiadian light. So if we hold that up, and you can receive the activation of this crystal even through this screen. It's super strong. And so what that means is, being a Pleiadian light crystal, is it connects with the star system with the Pleiades, which I'm sure a lot of you, after following Nikki, will have some resonance with that and know what that means. But for those that don't, the Pleiades is one of our sister star systems. In fact, we're actually on the same spiral as the Pleiades. We're shown in science, or mainstream science, how our planets revolve around our sun Ra. So we have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. What's the rhyme? My very energetic mouse jumps straight under Norman's paws. Do you have that?
I've never heard
to remember the planets. We learned it in school. But actually, if you think of those planets being like, I don't know, like a horizontal spiral, Earth is actually part of this other spiral, which the Pleiades is part of. And their sun, our other sun, our central sun, is called Alcyon. And so with this crystal, the awakening in your system, even just watching this podcast of this crystal, will connect you with that remembrance in your DNA. You might not remember in your mind yet, but your body starts to remember and starts to open and begins the attempt to harmonize with those frequencies that are frequencies of a higher ascended version of yourself. No? Am I going too deep?
You're going great, because it's sparking a lot of things that I want to add and share about why this podcast is even important.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
I'll tell them about this one first. This one is a Lemurian gold. They really like to be together, both of these. The Pleiadian frequency can be a little bit similar to what we experienced early Atlantis. And so we have Lemurian Atlantis. And those two frequencies have been coming up a lot in relation to this portal that we're on today. We're still on this question within humanity that we've been asking civilization through civilization, era through era. And I've just been speaking at a conscious technology symposium here on the island, which is still discussing this question of which is more important, or how do we balance this internal technology, so all of the work that we know with chakras and with like qigong and tai chi and all these movements that create sacred geometry in and around the body, with the external technology. So how do we balance those two things, and how do we create a world where the external technology is in line with the greatest good of all, which this crystal will help a little bit with to create that wisdom remember that wisdom inside yourself. And together they create a beautiful balance. Yeah, they like to be in different hands, actually.
Yeah, and as you're speaking, I'm reminded of why is it important to remember our galactic self. And I feel it's because in these other times and spaces, we've reached the level of frequency, what we can call ascension, which is really about living in a higher vibration, which is more connected to compassion and love and peace and harmony. And we've lived those experiences in harmony with a planet, with the body that we were living on in these other planets, in other times and spaces. And then for whatever different reasons happened, like I know for myself, I chose to incarnate while the peace and bliss was still going on. I said, okay, I'm going to go help Earth now. Like, what are they doing? Like, I can help them. What are they doing? And so I very vividly remember leaving the utopia. It was created and it was existence, and it was that heaven on earth. And there really wasn't all of this pushing and trying to make things happen and so much ego and mission and goal, because it was all already realized. Whereas here on earth, all of the starseeds that choose to incarnate, it's because we're holding codes to the creation of the new earth, aka utopia, aka heaven on earth, that bliss, peace, paradise on earth. And it's important to remember our galactic self because we reawaken the codes, the memories, the ways of embodiment, being, relating, that then supports the creation of the heaven on earth, because we be it first, and from our space, our energetic space, we manifest it in the physical. And then there's even more power when we meet each other and we come together, because I know that in Aoife's presence, I feel myself more incarnated as my oversoul, my highest self. So it's supportive to be with others who remember this. And this is why we work with mentors, coaches, healers, etc., because they're holding us to that higher frequency. And that's why community is important, etc. And diversity is very good. And it's within the diversity of the like-mindedness, because we have that same goal and destination and reason for being alive. It's a greater mission than ourselves. We're bringing that ancientness, the technology, the wisdom, the way of being into the now.
Oh, that's beautiful, Nikki. And I think it's so key what you're saying for those that are watching to know that they are starseeds, you know, and that their experience on the earth is slightly different from those that are more earthbound souls. And to step into the ownership of that, especially now as we step into this new era, like claim this moment in time to take ownership of that, not in a hierarchical, that well, the Irish accent struggles with that one. Not in a hierarchical, I am the chosen one way, just in a claim of your power and your purpose, and with 2 feet on the earth, that you chose to be here to anchor a frequency. And the reason that you chose to be here to anchor a frequency is you came more or less directly from that star system that your soul aligns most with, to bring their harmonics, to bring what they have perfected within the experience of being physical and being in community and being together but separate in this one experience that we're all having. You came to bring those, and to take ownership of that is really powerful. And to allow the differences that you see between yourself and other earthbound souls not to be not to enforce a separation, but to just empower yourself that yes, you are a starseed, and yes, you did come from a different planet, and that's okay. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. And as you settle into that, you start to see more and more beauty in the world around you that before felt a little bit different and stark. And as you said, we came from this utopia to this not so much of a utopia in comparison, but we came to anchor those codes here, so that like water, like the structured water that we've heard so much about, when we can structure water from a chaotic, the molecules all moving all around the place, not knowing how to interact with each other, not knowing how to form a cohesive pattern. We came to structure that water. We came to structure the humanity, the earth around us, and all the different systems that exist on the planet right now.
Absolutely. And I feel that's why the technology of the light language is so important. And more starseeds are awakening to their light language frequency and transmission, because like Aoife was saying, how the Andara help us remember at a DNA level, the same is true for light language. Like when I've shared light language, people are like, oh, that sounds familiar. I know it. And I know the first time I consciously heard it in my awakening time, I remember being like, oh, I know this. Like, so I heard it before I started to speak it. And it was in a remembrance to the more joyful frequency that lives inside of each one of us, because I truly believe our true nature is that love, that joy, really that childlike innocence that on earth gets disrupted because I feel that we're protecting ourselves in a way, and we have to conform to be like everyone else and more earthbound. And part of the spiritual awakening process is to remember that uniqueness about ourselves and to fully own it. And I know that when I first wrote a post about really coming out of the closet as a starseed and remembering lives on other planets, my parents were like, Nikki Starr, people are going to think you're crazy. What are you doing? But you know what? All the starseeds resonated, and it was one of my most engaged posts. And sure, maybe there were some people who didn't resonate or didn't understand, but it really wasn't for them to understand that. It was made for the starseeds. It was made to help awaken that part, because that's one of the reasons I came to this planet. And so much of remembering our galactic self is even the allowance to own it. And the same is true. I feel it's in stages. Like first is, okay, I'm on a spiritual journey. Now I'm out of the spiritual closet. And then it's like we come out of the galactic closet, like, okay, I come from another planet. And I have found, and I want to add to something that Aoife said, where when we do choose to claim it and choose consciously, I chose to incarnate, life happens with more ease and grace. Because one of the number one things I see starseeds do, which I know I have too, is you miss so much. You have the nostalgia for the star planet that you're not fully living here and now, and you're not fully incarnated, because a part of you is like, I want to go back. And it's understandable based on like everything that's happening on this planet. And your power to be here comes when you unify your field and you call those parts and you choose, I am here. I am fully present here and now. I choose this incarnation. And then even more of your gifts will come online.
Exactly, Nikki. You know, I just want to add something to give that even more force. You know, we talk about ascension, we talk about, consciousness. And what does that mean? It's like consciousness is being more consciously aware that you're here through all of the dimensions, from first through to 14, if possible, you know? I forgot what I was going to say. It was so powerful. It came straight through.
I was talking about the incarnation in the here and now, and we choose it, and by choosing it, it can become more fully online. You know, it's okay.
I completely what I was going to say.
You were going to talk about ascension, and okay. So I'll riff off of what you're going to say about the ascension. It's actually the opposite of what you might think. Like ascension is not like I'm ascending, I'm leaving my body, I'm coming out of my body, I'm going to be all high out of my body. This is not ascension, which is partly why like all the psychedelics and all that stuff has its time and place, but not for long, because once you become fully conscious, the ascension process is more incarnation into the body. Bringing the divine aspect into matter is the ascension process.
Forgotten again.
Interrupt me next time.
I need to write it down. No, I remember. I'm joking. Oh my god, it keeps leaving my mind. Yes, sorry. Right, stay, please. So I talked about like the consciousness of being conscious in each dimension. And really it's about, and we talk about this often, it's about increasing the frequency of this vehicle, the body, so higher and higher aspects of your soul can be at home here. You know, as we remove toxins, toxic people, toxic behaviors, toxins in our environment, toxic thoughts, everything allows us to incrementally become higher vibrational, you know, in harmonics, more tune. There's less density for the note to bang off, and it starts to become this one channel. And we see this more and more, I see this more and more often, especially here on this island, this little Mecca that we have. More and more people are achieving a high enough frequency that the oversoul can become present in the body. And then we really have something special, because then we have the masters walking on the planet, bringing us the solutions, reaching those higher vibrations and dimensions with the higher ascended wisdom of the collective consciousness of source, can bring through these descriptions of how we move forward and how we find these solutions. And I think we're going to see a lot of that in the next 2 years. Very rapidly, I think we're going to see a lot of big solutions for problems that before we couldn't really see a way through, because so many are walking in with their oversoul present now.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why it's ascension, because we're raising the frequency through the purification process, through the choices, the actions. And a lot of it is the healing of whatever trapped emotions and densities that we're clearing through the ancestral line of our earth DNA, right? Because in all these decades and generations before us, they were living like dark ages. And now we're coming into the light age. So part of our karma and work is to purify those lines of our ancestry and DNA. And at the same time, we're working with our galactic DNA, and we're working with our past life DNA. So we have all of these different fields that we're purifying, we're raising the frequency of, and how we are doing that is through healing, through transmuting, through consciously saying, okay, I no longer choose this. I am not inheriting this. I'm choosing to shift the pattern, the choices, the behaviors, step into a new timeline, our higher timeline. And that's the ascension, right? You're walking the higher timeline. You're making the matter more divine, lighter in terms of less density through the healing process, clearing trapped emotions, healing the wounds, the traumas, reclaiming power, soul retrieval, right? And so we're coming into more of a light body, even though we're still physical. And I remember on my planet that we were not as dense as this. And I feel the same is going to happen to Earth as we're making this ascension process, as we're going through the evolutionary jump. Humans will become more, I don't even want to say translucent, but that's like what that
permeable.
Glow up. Yeah, but even like when you notice someone glows, that I feel is the energy that's creating that effect. They're like, they seem like they're glowing, but you can even see more light in people's eyes. Like even your eye color can become lighter as you go through this process. And we actually know that there's something called iridology, that when you detoxify your iris, which is where the color of your eye is, it changes, it lightens, and certain specks or spots can completely dissolve and disappear. And so we actually have real-time proof that that can happen.
Yeah, and to use a visual, a visual aid for that, like these Andaras, this is a different one, but these Andaras, when we created them in ancient Lemuria, when the frequency of the planet was higher, like you're talking about, they weren't solid like this. They were more like Play-Doh or like lava. So that's the kind of differentiation in material world that we can expect as we move into these higher dimensions. And everything you were saying about like what the ascension process, all it is, I think you can boil it down into like one word, with whether you're talking about past lives, ancestors, galactic past lives, your own sacred gifts. It's all about remembering, you know. And this dark ages that we went through as higher ascended species, as more of the oversoul, we decided to do that, you know, to go through this veil of forgetfulness that we go through again when we're born and come through the womb, and we forget all of our past lives, we forget our divinity, we forget our galactic nature. And this era that we went through, the period of forgetting, we're now into this period of remembrance. It's called the rainbow prophecy. And as we more and more people on the planet remember, we get this cascade effect where eventually we all remember that we're one. And that we come from the stars, we come from one place of light, and then all these other issues that we have about ourselves, about others, they just evaporate because we realize that we're all experiencing this one journey together and creating it consciously together. And that's really what it means to remember your galactic nature, is to like take a load off and sit in your sameness and individuality, and kind of when anything comes along that is denser in your own self or in your experience, it's taking this with a lightheartedness, like, oh, isn't that interesting and funny, and not getting so serious and stuck in it. And I think we talked about claiming your galactic nature. That's what it allows you to do. It's like you can zoom out like the eagle, and when you see everything going on in your life and around you, it's not so in your face. It's like this expanded view of everything that comes with claiming your starseed nature.
Absolutely. And one of the things about this remembering age is we're going to see, and we have seen, and we see it even through our own embodiment, that every generation is remembering even more. So the work we're doing now is not just for ourselves, but it's for our offspring and the future generations. And so we can see when we look at our grandparents and we look at our parents, we see there's aspects of our parents that are more awakened than our grandparents. And then we're more awakened than our parents, and then our children will be even more awakened than us. And I feel even already remembering a lot of their past lives, because we've also created this space where we can receive them in their full remembrance, because we don't think it's weird if they're talking about their past life. We're like, oh yeah, totally normal. And so it's beautiful that we're creating this structure, because then all of these gifts and abilities that we kind of had to remember and reawaken, it's like that time is cut in half for them. They don't have to go through as much. So I feel as parents of the star seeds coming in, our role is more like protector, so that they can remember as much as possible, because I find that trauma minimizes remembering. So we're doing a lot of this work so that we can rise to the occasion to be parents for the level of souls that are coming onto the planet. And, Aoife has often mentioned to me too about like, oh yeah, like the level of children being born really can't even be born until 2 years from now, because of all the changes that will happen on Earth. And I love that. I love remembering that and being like, yeah, because also every time I go through a healing or something, I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't have the kids yet, because I don't want to pass that on to them. Recently I've been doing work around trapped emotions that has been inherited, not only like past life, but also through generationally. And I'm
galactic past life.
Yeah. And I'm seeing like so many things that I inherited from my father and his father and 2 or 3 generations beyond that. And it's like, it's not even something I got to choose. I chose it in a way because I chose to incarnate through that family line, but it's like, it just came with the package. And now I got to cut that line to be like, okay, you don't have to carry that panic. You don't have to carry that rejection, that abandonment, et cetera, et cetera. And their time gets to be focused more on what the mission is, to return this earth to the paradise that it is and meant to be, versus like having to do so much of that past healing like we've had to do. And so may that be inspiration to continue your journey, continue your healing, continue the refinement of your frequency. It's a really a never-ending process. And we've talked about how we're like so committed, like we're like on the fast train and we just keep going. And it's not because like we think anything's wrong with us. It's just like we just know what the potential is, and we know the frequency we're here to live, and that's our North Star. And it's just like what we're here to do. So for us, it just seems like just like brushing our teeth, of course we're going to continue healing, evolving, upgrading, etc.
And it's so beautiful in the higher dimensions that really the action of aligning your life to that is to bring those higher dimensions here. And that's, I think, the true nature of the multidimensional human, to be present in each of those dimensions. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think like we spoke about light language and how we access or what we're going to share in the bonus, and everything that we've spoken, hopefully you've been able to retain or absorb a lot of it. But the beauty about the light language is it is multidimensional. So it's not something that you have to, take notes for or re-listen to try to understand. You can re-listen to it, of course, but it is absorbed by your multidimensional nature, not just through the chakra points, but through all these different dimensions. The remembering is so easy for your galactic self. And there are different types of light language, just to speak briefly about it. There's when you begin to speak light language, which some of you may after this transmission, some of you may immediately or during begin to feel that some words or some noises want to come out. And please join us if you feel to. And you could maybe voice note Nikki and center your transmission. Or me, you could voice note me also. I do also do a course for light language for helping you to awaken that. So if anyone is really like, I want to know more, tell me more, then just find me with whatever.
We will include the link.
Yeah. Oh, I've forgotten again. with the light language, just allow it to be felt, because once you start speaking yourself at the beginning, it's really for your own healing. It's kind of like your own personal sound healing, but really specific. So when the sound bowls, for example, they heal a space, the throat and the heart, all the different larger points, the organs that exist around that. The light language, in my experience, is much more precise and fine. So it's like you're healing a specific strand of DNA or a specific cell. So sound might not sound super beautiful to you, but it's the sound that's needed. And so I trust you as you do, or ask you to trust yourself as you do awaken your light language, to just allow the noise that comes through to come through. There's another type of light language that we will speak today, and that's more informational light language, and that it contains more new information. So it's bringing down new codes for you, for us, from the higher dimensions, that because of crystallizing and purifying our vehicle, we're able to reach these dimensions that are a little bit higher than the majority of humans can reach. So we can bring in this higher information. And today, the purpose of our light language is to help you to remember your galactic self. So maybe within that framework, giving you the title, you can maybe understand or receive some story or some messages from your starseed soul origin or from your guides, and intensify and strengthen that connection with your galactic nature and with your galactic guides.
Absolutely. And earlier in the podcast, I have an episode that's titled, What is Light Language? And if you want, I do recommend, even before you listen, you can go back to that episode and re-listen there. And similarly to what Aoife said, I always suggest, instead of trying to figure out what is it saying with your conscious mind, see what it moves inside of you. And similarly, when I've had different courses and facilitator trainings, everyone's light language sounds different because of star planets, because of whatever nature spirits or elementals that you might connect to. So what I always say is that light language is also the translation of energy into sound, right? Because there's like energy healing. And then there's light language, which is the vibrational energy healing. So like what Aoife says, it can be so specific, like the song for your soul. And it's perfect. Like wherever you are, you can actually re-listen to it at another point in time and receive. It's so intelligent that you can listen to it again. Like you said, re-listen to it and you'll receive something different the next time around. Because it's multidimensional, it's multi-layered. And like she said, there can be ancient languages that we're bringing in from other times, dimensions, spaces. And also there can just be like tones, like certain frequencies, like a sound bowl that can help to purify, that can work on it works down to the DNA level. And so really, we invite you to open yourself to receive and see what memories. So I always say also see any visions come up. When I stopped doing plant medicines, it was like I didn't need to, because the light language is the frequency to journey on. So many clients and people have said like, oh, it's like I was in an ayahuasca journey, but I wasn't, because it was just the light language, but I was having all these visions and feeling all these things. And And so that's the pristineness of it. You don't have to take anything to change your consciousness. The frequency alone will shift your consciousness to give you what you are destined to receive in this moment. Beautiful. And so before we head into the bonus, I invite Aoife to share where people can find you. I'm going to share all your links and everything below, but just you can share your Instagram or whatever else you wish to share.
Yeah, the easiest place to find me is on Instagram. I have an Instagram called the Starseed Temple. And on there, I share all the different characteristics of the different Starseed nations, kind of motivational guidance and inspiration for those that are struggling a little bit to find their footing on the planet, knowing that they are a little bit different. And currently I have a couple of different courses running that you can do online. All the information will be there on my Instagram.
Beautiful. So thank you all so much for being here, and we will see you inside the bonus content. Thank you so much for being here, and bye for now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. Please like this podcast and share it with anyone you feel would benefit. Subscribe to the podcast to receive bonus content, and remember, every Monday the video version goes live on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being on the Ascension path with me and for doing this great work.